Alright, this is measures 13 to 16 with pickups, and this one has another sequence. It also has a little bit of a tricky bowing to it. You have one single note and then 3 notes slurred, and then you have 4 separate eighth notes, and that makes up each little idea in the sequence. So the small idea is, here's the next step up on the sequence. And here's the last one. So the other interesting things about this is that it has a lot of string changes, just like the one before, but even bigger. In measure 15, you have a jump from the D string all the way over to the E strings with this one. So, okay, so you're gonna get ready with that, with your elbow for all of those sections. On the eighth notes leading up to it, here you have, and then you want to have your elbow already high and ready for the D string with this G. And then while you're playing the G, already be lowering your elbow down for the high B on the E string with your fourth finger. Okay? So let's look at that again. So at the end there, you also have 2 hooked notes with the up, up, and those also have the staccato notes on it. So again, with your first finger, a little bit of extra pressure at the beginning of each of those notes, and that decrescendos away. The sequence crescendos up, as you probably noticed. And the other tricky thing is that at the beginning of measure 13, you have a fourth finger on the first E, and then an open E on the next one. So you need to have a good tunnel on your high D sharp. So you have a high 3 there for the D sharp. So on that D sharp, you need to have a nice good arch right there on your finger, so that you could play the E string while it's still down, because that's exactly what you're going to do with this. Like that. And then while you're playing the open E, you're already getting ready your first finger F sharp that's to come after it. Alright. The last tricky thing is also in measure 13, and it's that you have an F sharp followed immediately by a B on the A string. So that's an interval of a fifth. And it means that you basically have to have your first finger already covering both the E string and the A string for that section to make sure that you're ready to play it quickly. So, and then here, it's already covering both strings so that I can go, so the F sharp and the B. So again, looks just like that. And then that gives plenty of room for this low G that's to come after it. Alright, this is measures 17 through 20 with the pickup. And the first thing to notice is in measure 17, you have a low 2 on the G that goes over to a C sharp on the, which is a high 2 on the A string. So, and that takes some quick getting ready. So you want to practice that very slowly. Okay, let me get a better view of that. Okay, so you're going from a low 2 okay, and just be careful of the slurs in that section as well, because you're going from a separate, then slur, staccato, staccato, slur, 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 slur. So practice that carefully for the slurs as well. Also, we have the high fourth finger that we talked about in your last lesson, coming directly from the A string to the high fourth finger. So while you're playing that open A, you're going to want to make sure that your fourth finger is already ready and that it has some curve to it. I don't think we talked about this very much, but we want to make sure that you don't get a fourth finger that's flat like that. You want it to have some curve to it, even though it's up high. And you can do that by making sure that your elbow is far enough forward and that your wrist is relaxed. If your wrist is tight like this, you won't be able to do a good fourth finger. Or if it's squished in, which you don't generally have trouble with, but if it's tight, then it's going to be a problem. Okay, so watch out for those things in this section. And again, those last 5 notes are decrescendo, okay? Alright, this is measures 21 to 24 with the pickup notes. It starts forte and goes and decrescendos down to a piano during another downward sequence. So we'll see that in a minute. But there's also lots of slurs in this section, so a lot of times the pattern is slur, separate, slur, separate, slur, separate. But a little later on in the section, you have the same bowing pattern, but you have lots of string changes. So it's a lot harder, and you need to make sure that your elbow is working with you on that. So let's take a look at that. And then you have to be aware that in the last measure of this section, the bowing pattern changes. Instead of it being slur, separate, it's slur, 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 hook, hook. So I'll show you that slowly. So it's hook, hook. Okay? So down, up, up. Okay? And then the measure before that is the measure I was talking about that has lots of string changes. So make sure that your elbow's working with you. You're at a piano. And then back to the A string. And get ready for the D string. Get ready for the E string. And then immediately back to the A string for those slurs. Okay? So all together that looks like this. Okay? Alright, these last few measures of Bouree 1, 25 through 28, are very similar to measures 5 through 8, which is very interesting. It's almost exactly the same finger pattern, but it's one string down. So measures 5 through 8 is this. And measures 25 through 28 is almost exactly the same thing on the A and D strings instead. Okay? So you have the same rules about getting your arm ready for all the string crossings. You have a C natural, so you have a regular 3 on the G string. You have high F sharp next to a low C natural for this section. So you have a C natural and then an F sharp right after it. So exactly the same fingering pattern as before. The main difference is that you end with an octave double stop, which we talked about a little bit, instead of the 2 hooked notes at the end. So for the octave, you just want to make sure that you're preparing during the 2 notes before it. You're preparing your elbow and your arm so that they are ready to be on both the D and the G strings. Okay? So ready and set and then. Okay? So you want to do some good practicing on just those last 3 notes by themselves. So you have hook, 2 hooked up bows, and then set. So practice it like that, even with the metronome. So, and then set for 2 beats, and then play for 2 beats. Okay, but with the right bowing. And that's very important when you do that exercise. Make sure that you're doing the right bowing. Up, up, down, and then reset, up, up, down.